Saturday of IMSA competition with the Michelin Pilot Challenge WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca 120 on a day that is filled with so much emotion, not just here in the United States of America but around the world. It's fantastic that we have got motor racing here, but of course we still have in our hearts and in our minds, in our thoughts and in our prayers, the 2,977 souls that were lost 20 years ago today. We're on the west coast of the United States of America at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. 2.25 miles, 11 corners, split between some classic pieces of tarmac. Andretti hairpin at turn 2, up the Rahal straight from turn 6 and to the signature in some ways, I suppose you'd say, turn 8 and 8A, the world knows it as the corkscrew. Then it's all downhill from there, literally, to turn number 11, the left-hander on to the start-finish straight. Long run to the finish line as well here. So if you get a good run off the back of what is the final corner, there's always an opportunity to perhaps make a pass before the line. Jeremy Shaw is alongside me in the Global Broadcast Centre. Shea Adam is our VP Racing Pit and Paddock reporter. Let's go to Shea first of all. Bring us up to date with what's been happening this week in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, Shea.
Well, we've had quite a few driver changes as far as this series is concerned, but the biggest one coming with the guy who qualified it on pole, as Jeremy Shaw mentioned in our countdown to green. Maxwell Root subbing in for Ryan Hardwick, who returned a positive COVID-19 test result, pulled himself out, self-isolated, and is back home in Atlanta. Ryan, we're thinking about you this weekend. The team looking to try and vault Jan Heylen a bit further up the championship standings. He's in third coming into this race, having missed the first round at Daytona International Speedway, but he's got to fight off the might of the Turner Taco Mobiles, the 95 and the 96, leading the championship. Dylan McIvern starting in second, Vin Barletta a little bit further down the field. In TCR, the biggest story so far of yesterday and today has to be the Atlanta Speedworks car number 94, Scott Smithson, who starts this race once again from Utah. That's where he's based out of. He's still learning a lot of these new tracks. Had a shunt in practice. It was big enough that they missed the second practice. Car was repaired on the pit lane and the Honda went out for qualifying. But this is a car that Ryan Eversley is the co-driver of. He was as high as second in the TCR championship just a few races ago. Still well within a shout of the championship lead, but some misfortune would need to come the way of the 77 Brian Herta Autosport Hyundai for that to happen. Last year, though, at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, it was disaster for Brian Herta. So that could be in the minds of those drivers, remembering what happened a year ago and thinking that it is opportunity for everybody else to perhaps claw back into this.
Business end of the season, Jeremy Shaw, and we always talk about momentum, the big mo. Nobody with a better run through to this part of the season than Jan Heylen.
Yeah, that's right. As Shea said, he missed the first race of the season. That car was badly damaged in a practice accident, so wasn't able to take the start. Since then, despite a very disappointing outing last time out at Road America, that car and Jan Heylen indeed has scored more points than anybody else in the championship since that first round. We've had 4 podium finishes, and the only other team that can match that is Bill Oblin and Dylan McIvern, who've had 2 wins and 3 additional podiums as well. So coming into this weekend, Bill Oblin and Dylan McIvern, they have a lead of 120 points in new money after over their Turner Motorsport teammates Robbie Foley and Vin Barletta. One car starts in the second position. That's car number 95 for Dylan McIvern. The other car for Vin Barletta starts back in a 19th place. So Robbie Foley is going to have his work cut out in the second portion of this race.
So we're getting ready to go green. The Hyundai Now, is that a Veloster actually? I think it is. Yes, it is. Sitting with the eggshell blue colours and about to go to green flag racing on the front straight. So the two cars on the front row, inside row for that Maxwell Route driven right Motorsports 718 Cayman GT4 gets the drop and gets away. So he converts the pole position with Dylan McAvoy for Turner Motorsports in the yellow and blue machine. Already somebody going slowly. Now, was that the Alpha that was going slowly further back? I think it was. So after their win last time out, not the great start here, looks to be pretty clean and green at the front of the field for the GT4 runners, and the number 16, that light blue, white and black Cayman RS pulling away off the track for the 64. Oh well, that's not a great start either at turn 3. That car right into the dirt for the Camaro of Ted Giovannis and team TGM. He has got back onto the hard standing, but has dropped down and is now behind some of the TCR runners. Still not the huge schmozzle that we've often seen down at the Andretti hairpins. The clock has started for the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca 1:20, as you might imagine. That alludes to the fact that we started, Jeremy Shaw, with 2 hours on the clock, and what a start for Maxwell Route and for Wright Motorsports from pole position.
Yeah, Max has just checked out, hasn't he, at the front of him. He put that car on the pole position earlier this morning, and the margin he had then was half a second. The rest of the field behind, actually, there was another half a second gap back to the third place car of Russell Ward. So clearly that Porsche is working really, really well around here. It's nice and light and taking full advantage. I think that might be Sean Quinlan off the road there a little bit further down the field at the exit of turn 11. That's one of the local drivers. The Google executive is Sean Quinlan, and he is now back into the 18th position for the Stephen Cameron Racing BMW. Lost a few positions there. We come to 43, but Max Root, he's just gone at the front of the field.
It's dying for you to tell me that you used DuckDuckGo to find that information about that executive. We are off and running, and Max Root is clearing off in a very tidily presented, as always, Wright Motorsports Porsche. It is running with the same livery that they run their 911, and it rather suits the Cayman GT4. Climbing the hill to the top of the corkscrew, Cayman 718, still using the flat 6 engine in the middle of that car, and I challenge anybody to find where the engine is. The Boxster and Cayman, it sits so low down. It's a really beautiful package, both in road and race car terms. Coming down to the final corner and round it, the battle at the moment is between Russell Ward for Winwood Racing. His dad Bryce Ward is sitting behind him, but it's Dylan McAvoy who Russell has in his sights at the moment in the white, red and blue of the Mercedes AMG, and the yellow and blue with the white hood, the right bonnet on the Turner Motorsport GT4 car for Dylan McAvoy as they go through. Also coming through the field, Alan Brynjolfsson. Actually, he's just dropped a couple of places. There's Alan, that number 7 Volt car, the Aston Martin, just dropped behind the Team TGM Chevrolet Camaro GT4 of Hugh Plum. That was the battle for 8th and 9th position. Jeff Mosing just a wee bit further ahead. And another problem further down the field in the TCR category, and that is the Unitronic number 17 TCR Audi at turn 3 to 4, I think. I can see the shadow of the bridge there. Well, whatever needed to be done has been done by Chris Miller, and that car's back moving again, Jeremy. That was an odd one. So it didn't seem to have any accident damage on that car.
It didn't, and it didn't seem to have any sort of forward motivation either after the car was off the road. But now it seems to be back up to speed again. And Chris Miller, he'd already made up a few positions on that opening couple of laps, but now he's got it all to do again. He's a long, long way behind the field right now. This team, they've had all sorts of bad luck this year, but they have been super fast pretty much everywhere. Let's have a look, see what happens. Just going into turn 3, gets clipped there. Does he get clipped?
Yeah.
I'm sure he got clipped as well. It might have been by the number 61 car. Around that car goes, and he seemed to carry on without any dramas. But then he didn't pick up its momentum like one would have expected it to.
So either it stalled, or it was in between gears, or jumped out of gear. It was Gavin Ernston in the dark grey Rudshagger Audi that made contact on the inside. And Shea Adam, more news as well from another part of the grid.
Something must have happened on that last lap between Anton Diaz-Pereira and the Riley Motorsport Toyota. He's dropped down to 21st and last in class, 33rd overall.
Going slowly on the front straight. That car is moving very slowly on the front race, the Toyota Gazoo Racing Supra.
But also with him, John, was Tyler Maxson in the 27 Copeland Motorsports Hyundai. He was leading the class at the time.
Damage.
He's now shown in 9th.
Damage to the right front of that car, Shea. Good pick up. And maybe both front and rear. And it looks like the Supra's not getting very much further either, because that car's off the track. Tyler Copeland, the Copeland Motorsport, that's damage to the right front wheel and tyre. So there's all kinds of debris being thrown off that car as well. Looks like there might have been damage on the left rear as well. There's a bit of bodywork missing from behind the left wheel. They were side by side and both went off the track. At that point, I don't see where was the contact. Oh yes, heavens above, yes, there was contact. Heavy contact right front of the Hyundai to left front of the Toyota, and it looks like the Toyota has broken a steering arm on the left front there, and it was coming down to the penultimate corner. They were side by side there, Jeremy, and I think the rear bodywork on the left was probably just from bouncing across the dirt and coming back on for Tyler Copeland. But that's two cars both in strife towards the end of the lap.
Yeah, and that was Tyler Maxson. Actually, that was not his accident. That was Anton Pereira getting in too deep at turn 10, understeering wide and slamming into the side of the pole steering TCR. So really bad luck for these two youngsters, the two Tylers. In car number 27, Tyler Maxson and Tyler Gonzalez, who had his first pole position. He was the youngest ever pole sitter when he took that on in the when was that, the third race? No, when was that? That was a couple of races ago. That was at Lime Rock Park when he put the car on pole position. But now it's his teammate Tyler Maxson who started this race from the pole position, but it's all gone wrong there, and they've had no luck at all in the races, those two, but they are both very talented, and you know that Copeland Motorsports team once again has put a good car underneath them, but it's not going to be a good result for them today. And number 21 car didn't even come into the pits after that, so he's carrying on, and it's been another disastrous race for that team. And poor Scott Andrews, who's super fast, just isn't going to get an opportunity to show what he can do in that number 21 car later in the race.
Yeah, the Supra went through, didn't pit, and is trying to get around. It's already been off the track a couple of times, but the left front steering arm's broken, and the wheel is just wobbling around in the wheel arch, and basically going its own way. You'd have a better job actually reversing it back to the pits, because at least then the caster angle would straighten up the front wheel. If you were going backwards, don't ask me how I know that, but it involves being towed backwards for about 8 miles to get a car with a broken steering arm to where it is. Sukata. Back to the pit lane now. Shea Adam is our VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock reporter.
The front left Michelin that they have pulled off was quite comprehensively destroyed. The mechanic working in the front left was actually radioing back to the brains on the pit wall, and they do have some very good brains on the pit wall, to let them know what kind of work needs to happen before they can put the new sticker Michelin tire on. It is quite a lot of work that's going to be needed from that 21 machine. The good news for Riley Motorsport is that they have another car out on track, Riley Technologies with the 14, and that has seemed to be the Toyota this year that has had any of the good fortune, if there has been any to have.
Yeah, it's going to be a long fight back though. At the front of the field, Maxwell Root is cleared out by 2.5 seconds and more from Dylan McEvan, who's still under pressure from Russell Ward, who's pulled away about 3.5 seconds from his dad's 16 Porsche, from 95 BMW, from 4 and 57 AMG GT4s in TCR. Ryan Norman leads for Brian Herner Autosport in the new for 21 Elantra in TCR. Similar car of Harry Gottsacker in behind him in second, and Kuno Whitmer. It's not Kuno Whitmer at all, is it? Carl was. We had another Whitmer racing in the 24 hours of Barcelona last weekend as well. All families managed to get drives in the VGMC Racing Honda Civic. He's just 7/10 further back down the field. New overall best in TCR for Chris Miller in the number 17 Unitronics after that issue earlier on. He's going to have to fight back as well, Jeremy, down in 12th position.
Yeah, there's a bunch of fightbacks going on in this race in the early stages, it seems, but Maxwell Root, no problems there out front. He set the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 32.049. Still somewhere away from the lap record around here, set by Corey Lewis last year, 131.2. So, but he's doing a fine job out front. He's extended that lead now to almost 4 seconds over Dylan McElburn, on board with Russell Ward as he heads up the hill towards the corkscrew. Just 3 or 4 car lengths behind in the 3rd position. Back in 4th, about 6 seconds back now. Michael McCann, who started in the 4th position, has now worked his way back past Bryce Ward, who's done a really good opening job there, number 57 car. But Bryce now back into 5th. Or Fadani, who's having his best run of the season, in 6th position in the AWA McLaren. That's the number 13 car.
Still an hour and 3/4 to go, and settling in then for this first stint. And that a stint we're talking about here, that's a full tank of fuel, although as we've been mentioning in some of our other broadcasts, it may be that tyre wear is more important here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, Jeremy, than the fuel burn, because you can lose so much time if you are losing performance because you've overworked your tyres on this surface, which is notoriously lacking in grip.
Yeah, that is a good point. And you know, the minimum drive time here during this 2-hour race is the regular 40 minutes. So for the most of these cars are running kind of pro-am lineups, and yeah, the key really is to get your pro driver in.
So The internecine battle at the front of TCR is between the two Brian Hertner International Hyundai Elantra NTCRs, Ryan Norman and Harry Gottsacker, with Ryan van der Steur in the Van der Steur Racing Veloster about a second further back. These Hyundais have really hit the ground running this year. Another new body style, the third new body style in seemingly no time at all. We start with the i30, then we had the Veloster, which was a development of that, and now the Elantra. All have been very successful. The incident between the number 17 Unitronics car and the 61 Supra under review. Shea Adam will keep an eye on that for us. That gap now nearly 3 seconds at the front of the field, Jeremy, and Max Root drafted into this squad, as we were discussing earlier on, has taken this opportunity with both hands, and when opportunity does come calling, that's what you've got to do as a young driver.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And he put this car on a pole position at Sebring, his only other start in this championship. They came away with a second place finish there. That was actually second place finish, so he's at the moment right now exactly where he needs to be, out in front. That gap between first and second, well, actually all of a sudden it's gone out a little bit on this last lap, but the gap had kind of stabilized. It was out to 3 seconds inside the first 2 or 3 laps. Since then it had remained fairly stable until they crossed the line now to complete lap 11. All of a sudden it's out to over 4 seconds.
Turner Motorsport, McAvern in second. As I say, he was under pressure earlier on from Bryce Ward. Bryce trying to keep him honest, but it's now Russell Ward in second position. He's gone through. McAvern down to third. McCann Racing Audi now up into fourth position. Lappery already starting, of course, as the differences in the lap times between TCR and particularly the back of the TCR field and the front of the GT4 field, that's going to certainly have an effect. Shea Adam with this VP Racing Fuel Pit Paddock report, penalties coming through.
Race control looked at it and they deemed the 61 of Gavin Ernstone, the Road Checker Racing Audi, to be responsible for the incident with the 17 JDC Miller Motorsport Audi. Drive-through penalty for Gavin has been issued.
Right, and are they having a look at the Supra one as well?
I've not seen that one called up on race control as of yet.
Right, okay.
Reviewed, no further action. Boy, that was handled so quickly, I didn't even see it pop up on the time.
Okay, very good, thank you. At IMSA Radio, if you want to get in touch with us, just on 100 minutes still to go in this race. Jeremy, we were talking about the stint length and the driver times. 40-minute drive time here this weekend in the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca 120. What would we expect as a fuel run here if they went right to the end of the fuel capacity?
Good question. A bit less than an hour. I think about 55 minutes or so for GS cars, but I actually don't know that for sure, I must admit, but that would be my kind of best guess. I think if you really want to stretch, you might be able to get to an hour or so, but I think that's really on massive fuel save. So that does create a problem for the cars. Less so, I think, the TCR cars should be able to go an hour before they need to stop, so they can pretty much do this race on one stop. GS cars, if it goes green all the way, likely will need 2 pit stops during this 2-hour race.
It was a lovely dive down the inside by Russell Ward to claim second position from Dylan McAvern at the final corner. Set it up coming down the hill from the corkscrew and then just let the car steer wide out of corner number 10 and then centred down the inside on the left-hander. Clean as a whistle. Now, is it my eyes, or is Russell just gaining a bit of time on the leader, Maxwell Root? To be fair, Jeremy, Maxwell has got himself such a decent cushion there. He might just be soft pedalling a little bit and hitting his fuel numbers now.
Yeah, he just had to negotiate, I think, a couple of slower cars on that lap, including, I think, the car of number 61 car, which I think has just served its drive-through penalty. Yes, indeed, it has. Number 61 with that penalty earlier on. So I think, Max, he clearly is in control of this race right now, so there's no point in pushing too hard. Make sure if there is a full course caution and has to restart, he's got some Michelin tyres left to use later on. There's another replay of Russell Ward making that pass, a really nice pass down the inside into turn 11.
Yeah, set that up from turn 10 onwards, as I was describing a few moments ago, and that was a lovely move down the inside. Looked like he might go to the right, and as soon as Dylan McEvan covered across, just let the car slide down to the left-hand side and claimed second position. Now, as the leader is coming through the field now, he's getting up past the TCRs and into the back of the GS field, and these cars are going to be a little more difficult to negotiate. The first one of the GS cars that he has managed to get through is the very distinctive dark grey and bright green number 93. That's the Car-Bound with Peregrine Audi GT4. And somebody's just gone off right in front of the leader at turn 6. I thought I heard the squeal of tyres. That's Gavin Ernstone again, having just served the penalty. It's Samir Gandhi, by the way, who's behind the wheel of that number 93. It's just gone a lap down that Audi GT4. So another little slide for Gavin. Gather himself back together as Maxwell Root continues at the front of the field. He's putting together a pretty good reputation for himself, is Max Root, Jeremy Shaw. We've seen him in Porsche Carrera Cup North America presented by Visit Cayman, and he's proving himself to be a versatile plug and play style of operative, and that can never be a bad thing for any driver, and certainly not one of the tender age of Maxwell Root.
That's a fair comment. Just 22 years of age, from San Diego. There's another replay of that incident earlier in the race as Gavin Ernstone giving a bit of a helping hand there to number 17 car at turn 3. Served a penalty for that and has rejoined. He's not yet lost a lap to the leader, the class leader, which will be Ryan Morgan in car number 98. So 61 car is still going again, and very much still in the fight, particularly if there's a full course caution to bring him closer to the leaders. You'll hand over that car to John Morley, lives these days in San Francisco, originally from Columbus, Ohio. I remember John Morley when he was racing back in the Barber Dodge Series a couple of years ago, quite a lot of years ago actually, John. But he's a super talented young man, and Gavin Ernstone has done a really good job this season and the last couple of years with this car. That pair already have 4 wins to their credit. They've got some work to do. They're going to add a 5th one today. Certainly don't count them out yet.
Down through the corkscrew for Gavin. Just needs to get himself back into a rhythm here. Try and forget what's gone before. Forget the frustration or the annoyance or whatever he's had with his penalty. He'll feel, I'm sure, it wasn't his fault and that he was making a justifiable move. Remember, if there are 3 drivers involved, you'll get probably 4 opinions. Another spinner onto the inside at the exit of turn 5, and that is the Mosing car, the 65, the metallic copper machine. That's one of the AMG GTs, and back on the track, I'm delighted to say, but again, having lost some real estate. And what I can't tell you just for the moment is whether it was jump or push, and it is horsing at the wheel of the Murillo Racing number 65, as I thought it was. He was the Ryan Norman and Harry Gutzak are going at it side by side. Ryan Norman just holding on to the lead in the 98 from the 33.
Battle, John, is that even though they're kind of almost trading places, if not quite, Ryan Norman still just leads over the number 33 car of Harry. Bannister had a great run at Road America for second, and now running in the third position.
So coming down towards 90 minutes to go. Air temperature a pleasant 20 degrees, track temperature 38. So still quite toasty for the Michelin tyres. Still the battle rages on at the head of TCR. Norman Gotzacker, and 3.5 seconds further back, Rory van der Steur. These two battling don't seem to be slowing them down too much. Van der Steur not getting back towards them. Let's check in with Shea Adam, see if we've got any news from the pit and paddock. Been plenty going on, Shea. One or two unexpected callers to the pit lane. What are you hearing?
Yeah, no team orders as of yet from Ryan Herta Autosport. These two cars are the two that are not involved in the championship hunt. It is the 77 of Michael Lewis and Taylor Hagler that leads the way, but they are currently down in the 5th position. So the 33, which is second on the racetrack, only 2 top 5 finishes all year, 0 podiums. Hard to believe for Harry Gotzacker and Mark Wilkins. The car leading the way, Ryan Norman and Parker Chase, they have a win, a second, and a third on the year. So when it comes down to battling for who wants it more, the 33 is going to be willing to put the elbows out a bit further. But as far as pit callers, we've only had one normal service, quote unquote normal. That would be Brian Henderson, came in a little while ago, fuel, and I think it was just a splash of fuel actually for that Honda, the number 84, trying to elongate his stint to give a bit more time before they put Robert Noaker into the car for the finish.
Well, it's been a cracking season and a cracking couple of seasons for the Hyundais. What a introduction into TCR they've had over the last few years. Their motorsport program under the N branding, which encompasses rallying as well as TCR. They've certainly set their stall out, Jeremy Shaw, and partnering up with people like Brian Hurt at Autosport. Brian's been a tremendous asset to Hyundai and their motorsport ambitions here in North America.
Yeah, well, he really has, yes, and you know it's a top quality team. Of course, Brian Herta also involved in running cars in the NGT IndyCar series, of course, for several years, and so he's got a busy weekend this weekend as well. And you know the engineering depth on that team. John Ward, who spent many years with Dan Gurney's All-American Racers, designed many iconic cars, including the Eagle Toyota Mark III and others as well, both in the Indy cars and in sports cars. He retired at the end of last season, and it's David Brown who's taken over as technical director at Brian Hurt Autosport. David Brown is another massively accomplished individual, spent many years in Formula One, and that team has not missed a beat, as you talked about earlier on, developing this new Elantra shell for this season, and clearly it's gone very, very well indeed. It's still the older car, the Veloster, that leads the championship chase with Taylor Hagner and Michael Lewis, and they've got a huge lead of nearly 200 points coming into this weekend over Parker Chase, who is sharing the car that currently leads for Ryan Norman. They're running in second place, just 10 points now ahead. Actually, no, equal on points with the Alpha of Roy Block and Tim Lewis Jr., who had that problem. They had a spin, I think, earlier in the race, so back in 9th position now. But that was the car that won most recently at Road America.
Jeremy Shaw with me, John Hindhaugh, in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. And at the sharp end of the timing screen, sharp end of the field, Russell Ward in the number 4, staring at the back of the number 95 again. That's Dylan McEvan. That is the battle for second and third. Heading up the hill towards turn 6.
To me, John, is that every now and again Maxwell Root kind of loses a bit of ground compared to the second place car as he works his way through the traffic. He's pretty conservative, knowing that he's got a really fast car, and the gap comes down. But then the lap later he extends that lead again. And just holding it was around about, it was up to 4.5 seconds or so, now down to 3.3. But Max Root is very much in control here, and Russell Ward has just lost that place again, hasn't he, now, to Dylan McEvan? I missed that. But that pair is pulling well clear now of Michael McCann, who's running in 4th place in car number 8 at the Audi, 15 seconds behind him. Bryce Wardser runs in 5th. James Pezek has finally found a way past Ori Fidani up into 6th place now in the PF Racing Mustang, that very distinctive pink Mustang. Can't miss that car. And Jeff Mosing, also in car number 56, has found a way past Ori Fidani. So Ori now down in that McLaren to 8th position and trying to hold off Hugh Plum, Alan Brynjolfsson in car number 7, and Alfredo Nadri in the number 14 Toyota Supra.
Sounds like we've got... No, carry on. I was just trying to go through the race control messages. Norman, Gottsacker, Van der Steur, still your top 3 in TCR in the 3 Mondays. And now, as we were talking about, McEvan re-established himself in second position. A little bit of a help with traffic, I think. That's got him back ahead of Russell Ward. Russell, in fact, going a little bit wide at turn 6 a lap or 2 ago, whilst he was under pressure from Dylan, and that was what got him back into second position. So a good opportunist manoeuvre by the Turner Motorsport driver, who has turned that into a little bit of an advantage there as he goes across the line now and heads over the top of the brow, pulling over 120 miles an hour in that very distinctive machine. Oh, and Gavin Ernsted's having an absolute nightmare off at the side of the road again. I think that's turn 5 again. And also involved in there is the Pfaff McLaren, by the look of things. Now, is that coming down the other side of the hill? Ori Fidani for the AWA McLaren. Now, are they connected or not? That's the question. Looks like Gavin is able to get the car in a forward gear. He's dropped another position in class. I think they may have been unconnected. Ori Fidani still sitting in the car as Gavin tries to get back onto the track. Right, okay, so Gavin was going up the hill again and did hit the tyre barriers on the left-hand side, and Ori Fadani was at the top of the corkscrew and just bizarrely went straight on. Now, is there damage to the left front wheel there? Did something break? Full course yellow, no surprise there for that. That was an odd one from Ori Fadani, Jeremy Shaw.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah, I didn't quite see really what happened. He just seemed to go straight on at the top of the hill there and hasn't turned the car at all. Hasn't hit anything. So I think it must be some sort of, I don't think he's hit anything solid. So apparently perhaps some sort of mechanical failure on number 13 car. He'd just been sliding back. He was holding off on a very nice sixth position. A really, really good run for him through the early stages. He finally fell behind the number 56 car of Jeff Mosing, who got away past him a few laps ago, but all of a sudden there at the top of the corkscrew, it's gone wrong for Ori Fadani, and that's the car that started the season perfectly at Daytona, winning the first race of the season after Kuna Whitney put that car on pole position. So that was a great way to start, and unfortunately Ori was forced to miss the second race of the championship, but they've had some good solid runs since then. It was looking good for them again today. Unfortunately now they bring out the first full course caution of the day with 36 minutes done into the race, so not yet time for scheduled pit stops to make driver changes. However, after a couple of laps of full course caution, the pit window in terms of completing that minimum driver time will have been met.
Yeah, exactly so. We are under 4 minutes away from that minimum drive time. Now, as ever, the super efficient, very efficient AMR IMSA safety crew have got to the scene of the crime, as it were, and the Chevy safety truck rather sensibly staying on the racetrack surface, and the extended tow line will be attached to the back of the McLaren, and that will be dragged gently and carefully back to some hard standing. We're going to run the pass around, which therefore will mean some cars coming out of line, like the Hyundai Veloster, second in the safety car line at the moment on the front straight, pulling out. And normally you don't overtake under safety car, but if you are between the race leader and your own class leader, then you can go around so that you don't lose a lap to your own class leader. And what had happened was that Ryan Norman, Harry Gottsacker, and I think Rory van der Steur had just been lapped by the race. Sorry, the other way around. Everybody up to them had just been lapped by the race leader.
Yeah, the number 54 car, I think, was which is running in the fourth position, Michael Johnson. He had not yet been lapped by the overall race leader, but you're absolutely right, John. Those cars behind him, notably Taylor Hagler, who's running fifth in the class, she had just been lapped by the overall leader, but not crucially by the TCR leader, so she will move back now onto the lead lap. Also AJ Muss in car number 51, the Olympic snowboarder Chris Miller, who started qualified fastest this morning but had to start from the back. Scott Smithson also in car number 94. That's good news for Ryan Eversley. Those cars at least are going to get the wave around. I'm not sure about Ryan Block in car number 5 and car number 84, that being Brian Henderson. I'll have to wait and see where they line up in relation to the safety car next time around.
Now, Shea Adam is keeping a weather eye, or maybe that should be a WeatherTech eye, on the time, but as I hand to you, the 40 minutes, Shea, is up.
Yes, but there is one car in the GS class that cannot pit because they've already made a visit down the pit lane that lasted 65 seconds. So that time does not count towards Mark Kwame's 40-minute minimum. So he can't come into the pit lane until 41 minutes and 6 seconds have elapsed on the clock. Right now we are at 40:26, so he's got a bit of time to go yet. I think he's just going to miss this window, and hopefully CB Motorsports is on top of that, because everybody else in GS is diving down the pit lane. And ooh, that got a little bit sketchy as people were trying to jump on the brakes to hurry up and hit that. He should be handing over to Jan Halen, the Belgian driver, to take this to the finish, trying to race for his own championship challenge. It is the 95 Turner Motorsport BMW that comes in first and alone as Dylan McIlburn gets out. Down the pit lane. I believe they will do that one the next time around. We've also got Russell Ward in the pits in the Mercedes. He's handing over to Indy Donja. Michael McCann, great job today. Big shout out to him. In the Audi, brings it in the 5th position, handing over to Andrew Davis, a man who knows how to win here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Alec Udell has already done one race today. That was in a Lamborghini. Well, now he's behind the wheel of the 57 Windward Racing Mercedes. It's a bit of a slow stop for the Ford, though. The sister car still up on the air jacks well after the tire change and fuel was completed. So a bit of time lost there. The BMW is rolling once again, but the first car back off the lane, that would be Jan Halen.
Just a thought on that drive time. Coming down the pit lane to do a drive-through penalty, I'm thinking of the 61 Roadshagger car. You are effectively in the pit lane, but not for service. Does that time in the pit lane not count for your drive time either, Shea?
As soon as you hit pit in until you hit pit out, the timer on your drive time effectively stops. So there is no time added to your drive time during that drive-through. For Gavin, that was 25.6 seconds of a drive-through penalty. Good news for him is that the pits had not yet opened for TCR. Now more time plus that drive-through has elapsed. He's good to get out of the car and hand over to John Morley at this point.
I kind of like that, if I'm honest, because it does mean that if you're called for an infraction and you come in for a drive-through or a stop and hold, then you get disadvantaged by that in terms of your strategy as well. And of course, you're not driving the car at that point. You're sitting in the pit lane, having somebody counting down a stopwatch to you. Well, let's check them as they come round this time. So, who didn't come in there, Jeremy, out of the GS, or did everybody come in?
I believe everybody except for James Pezek.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at, James.
Mustang. Yeah. The number 18 car, the CB Motorsports Mercedes that Shea was talking about, that is a lap down in any case to the overall leader. So they're kind of out of contention in any case, although they should actually get now their lap back, perhaps, as everybody else just pitted in GS. We'll wait and see about that one. But now we're seeing all of the TCR cars coming in for their pit stops as well. And most of that, I think all of them did get that lap back. So Brian Block in the Alpha, Brian Henderson in the Honda Civic as well, coming back before they are back on the lead lap with the rest of the TCR contenders.
Let's head to Sheridan for a VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report, and it's not all gone swimmingly well down at Brian Herter Autosport.
Oof, no, a very slow stop for the number 33. Well, it actually wasn't a slow stop, but because they had to push Mark Wilkins back in his box with the fuel probe still attached, by the way, which I do believe it's making my spidey senses tingle. That should have been a no-no, but by pushing that car back, it blocked the 98, the sister car, from exiting with Ryan Norman aboard. It should now be Parker Chase behind the wheel of that car. I believe it was driver changes for both of the Brian Herta Autosports cars. And they did do front tire changes on those, as well as the 19 Hyundai, the Vanderstar Racing car. Denis Dupont is now behind the wheel of that one. We've got Steven Simpson in the 54 Michael Johnson Racing Hyundai. It's Mason Filippi in the Copeland Motorsports Hyundai. And it will be Michael Lewis. Let's see who else is there. Mikey Taylor in the 17 Audi. We will have Ryan Eversley in the 94 Honda. And Tim Lewis Jr. in the Alpha.
I think that Denis Dupont is going to be leading TCR when all this shakes out, because he certainly tripped the pit exit earlier than anybody else. So we'll have to check that in a moment. We're under full course yellow, so no racing going on, but still the opportunity to make up positions, and this is where the team gain comes in. James Pesek for PF Racing has stayed out and will assume the lead. Also coming in from just behind him, that was Matt Plum coming in. He had stayed out as well, Jeremy, presumably to get a lap back there, was he?
No, I think the reason for this most likely, as we see another wave around here, these are the cars that were again trapped after the pit stops between the safety car and the class leader, and that includes potentially crucially the number 61 car of Gavin Ernstone. Also, I think Carl Whitmer and perhaps Ryan Block as well got the wave around there, or should have got the wave around. I think number 5 car, Alpha, came into the pits. So that's kind of curious. The reason for number 40 car staying out, perhaps, might be that if this is an extended caution period, or if this is another caution period shortly thereafter, then, well, actually, no, if there's another caution shortly thereafter, then it will be a short yellow when the pits will not be opened. But if this is a long yellow, they can make their driver change after it's been completed, and potentially, perhaps, number 40 car might be able to get to the end of the race from there without making another pit stop. That's about the only thing I can think that would cause them to try this strategy. But if it is a long caution period, then all those cars that did pit probably going to make it the end in any case. So we'll have to wait and see. But James Pesek has done a really nice opening stint in that number 40 car. He qualified in the 9th position, ran in as high as 6th before this full course caution, and now leads the race.
Let me just correct something on the TGM front. It was the 64 that went in, Jeremy, and that means that Ted Giovannis has passed the car to Owen Trinkler, and he's already out. And
yeah, but he's already a lap down, John.
Correct. Yeah, my apologies. And also the Alpha has been listed as leaving the pit lane, the KMW Motorsports, but that car is a lap off the TCR lead as well. Hour and 12 and a half minutes to go. We're at the Michelin Pilot Challenge, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca 120 this Super Saturday. The Veloster N goes into the pit lane, and James Pesek then leads the cars round to restart after that full course yellow. Green flag at the start finish line, and a nice neat line of cars going through. 16 cars at the front of the field are all the GT4 GS cars, and here comes Jan Helen, who has made his stop, taking over from a very good opening stint from Max Root. Started on pole position, drove away from a quality field, and was able to get the car out. And Bright Motorsports were able to get the car out in the lead of the stoppers. Now the bright pink Mustang, the PF car, under pressure from Porsche, from AMG, from Camaro in there as well. A fabulous variety of cars at the head of the field. BMW coming through as well in the shape of Bill Oberlin. He sees a gaggle of cars, and it's just a challenge to him, and he squeezes and makes it 3 wide, gets a little dink on the left rear corner going into the corkscrew. The left-hander at the top for his troubles, but makes up positions there. Oberlin, who was in 6th, is squeezing his way up to 4th position, and he's made 4th position as he comes through turn 10, and now has the leading trio ahead of him, but he's going to have to defend down the inside. Indy Donchi in the white-blue AMG. Oberlin with the left-hand indicator on, and in fact goes to the left to defend on the start-finish straight. So Pesek in the pink and blue Mustang from the light blue and black of Jan Helen, and the nimble mid-engine Cayman dives down the inside on the brakes into the Andretti hairpin and retakes the lead. Beautiful piece of driving, and following through Eric Voss for Murillo Racing in the 56 car. Oh, and there's a little touch. Oberlin onto the back of Pesek. Pesek struggling for grip, Jeremy. We talked about this, didn't we, early on, about never mind how much fuel you've got, it's going to be how much grip you've got for the tyres. And it seems to me that although Pesek clearly has fuel to do more laps, he's just not got any forward grip out of the corners.
Yeah, that's right. Everybody else has the fresh Michelin tyres now after making their pit stop, so it's going to be a pretty tall order here for James Pesek to hold on to a reasonable position. He's going to lose a lot of ground if he's not careful. I would imagine he'll bring that car in for its pit stop fairly soon, and I don't think there's any way you can get to the end of the race with an hour and 9 minutes remaining on just this one stop.
No.
But Bill Oberlin, mind you, having got himself up now into the third position, he's the championship leader. He's looking in really good shape here. Of course, Jan Halen, we know how fast that car is, so Bill Oberlin's going to have his work cut out. But in second place, Eric Foss, he and Jeff Mosley, two of the most consistent performers in this entire field. They finally had their first win in the GT4 ranks a couple of races ago. That was at Lime Rock Park, and very well deserved it was. And Eric Foss now, he's got a huge experience as a former champion in the ST category, in the old ST category, but he's a wily old bird is Eric Foss. All these three drivers out front have a huge amount of experience between the three of them, Jan Halen, Eric Foss and Bill Oberlin.
So after the pit stops, and we are back to racing after that full course yellow for Ore Fadani in the McLaren. Jan Halen at the front of the field and trying to make a little bit of a break from Murillo Racing's Eric Foss and Bill Oberlin in third. Those three separated by just a second. Then it's Windward Racing, and in the second further back, Indy Donchi. And fast times coming in through the field. Robbie Foley's been installed in the 96, the second of the Turner Motorsport cars. He's just put his fastest lap in. So is Gregory Learfouk for Stephen Cameron Racing in the M4 BMW number 43. The Automatic Racing Aston trying to make time through the field, as well as Tim Probert for Murillo Racing. So all of those cars, and a new fastest lap of the race now by Indy Donchi for Windward Racing's number 4 car, sitting in 4th position, going down into the Andretti hairpins now, and the top 4, Jeremy, are together. Exactly what we expect to see. Voss just dropping the right rear Michelin off the edge of the curb, coming out of the Andretti hairpins, pitching the car sideways. That'll have cost him a tiny little bit of momentum, but that safety car's pulled everybody back together. And at TCR, it is Denny Dupont for Van der Steur Racing, ahead of the two Hyundai Elantras, Parker Chase and Mark Wilkins, 98 and 33 from Brian Herder Autosport. Huge dust cloud being thrown up at the exit of turn 3. The limits are being well and truly tested, I think, Mr. Shaw. It's fair to say.
Yeah, this is going to be really, really interesting. And Denny Dupont having taken over this car then from Rory Van der Steur. Really good first stint by Rory. They qualified a little bit further down the field than they would have liked. They were in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th position, but Rory ran third in that first of this team. They've had no luck at all through the early part of the season, but finally, last time out, had their best finish, a podium finish at Road America, and now out in front as well. And Denny Dupont, he makes his home these days in Canada. He's from Belgium. And has quite a lot of experience in TCR cars in Europe before coming over here for this season, his first season racing in North America.
The fastest lap of the race, Alan Udell for Windward Racing, the 57 car that he took over from Bryce Ward, down in 8th position. That's the more silver of the two Windward machines. Side by side, two AMGs. Foss trying to hold on to third, Indy Donchi trying to take it away, and the number 4 car into turn 4 almost has position round about the door level of the now 3rd place car, as Bill Oberlin's gone through into 2nd and is chasing down Jan Halen. And Now Donchy's gone through into third. This is a cracking battle at the head of the field. And Oberlin now with the leader. Right, get the popcorn in, settle back. Jan Helen in a Porsche, Bill Oberlin in a BMW. I don't think you really need me to tell you, Jeremy, that this is going to be entertaining.
No argument there. This is going to be really, really good fun. And Jan Helen, though, he's going to have to be a bit defensive there. Bill Oberlin is just charging. This car is super fast. It's been fast in most of the races this season. We've seen the consistency. Obviously, they had a poor run or some misfortune at Lime Rock Park, but either side of that, 2 wins for Bill Oberlin and Dylan McAvern, and Bill Oberlin has his sights set on another win here this afternoon.
Oberlin just gently squeezing into the second corner, the hairpins at the end of the front straight. Great grandstand view for Indy Donchy, who's sitting in third position and looking at the back of the 2 leading cars at the moment, but he's got to keep his eyes on the mirror because Eric Foss has not dropped away.
No, and look who's behind them as well. Is Matt Plum is in 5th position as well in the Team TGM Chevrolet. Right behind Matt Plum is Andrew Davis in the number 8 McCann Racing Audi. Right behind Andrew Davis is Trent Hinman, another former series champion in car number 7 now. It's the Volt Racing with Archangel Aston Martin. So the top runners are Porsche, BMW, a pair of Mercedes, a Chevrolet, an Audi and an Aston Martin, making up the top 7 with an hour and 3 minutes remaining. So not even halfway through. This is building up beautifully.
Well, if you've stayed here and still trackside, you've made the right decision, haven't you? If you're tuning in wherever you are in the world on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV, thank you for spending some of your Saturday afternoon, evening, or depending where you are, early Sunday morning. Already coming up towards 20 minutes before 2 in the UK, an hour later than that in Europe. But this one is worth staying up for. This is going to run and run. Halen, Oberlin, Donchy, Foss, Plum, Davis, Trent Hinman in 7th for the Volt Racing Aston Martin, Alec Udell in 8th position, and the top 10 made up by Riley Motorsport Supra and Spencer Piggott in the Motorsport in Action McLaren. 8 seconds between the top 10 in the GS category, and in TCR, Parker Chase has got to the lead in the number 98 Elantra. Denis Dupont is still in 2nd in the number 19 Van der Steur, the white and orange car, and Mark Wilkins in 3rd. They're still battling it out, and Alec Udell just resetting the fastest lap again. And in fact now Tom Dyer in the number 93 Audi goes quickest of everybody. He's making up time as Oberlin is trying all sorts of lines at all sorts of corners, some of which I've got to say I'm not sure I've seen before, but he's making them work, Jeremy.
Fantastic. Unfortunately, Tom Dyer's a lap down after that first stint, but you're right, that carbine with Peregrine Audi is super fast as well. But all these drivers now, of the top 13, all but 3 set their best laps of this race so far on this last lap, all the way down to Chris Wilson in 13th position, and all of them within 7/10 of a second of each other. This is fabulous stuff.
Almost at the halfway mark of the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca 120 as James Pesek finally pulls into the pit lane exactly, Shea Adam, halfway through the race, but he's dropped from leading the race to some almost 25 seconds away and well outside the top 10 in GS.
It was a gamble, and we'll have to wait and see if it pays off for the bright pink PF Racing Mustang, but they are doing 4 tires, fuel, and installing a lad named Chad McCumbee, who's fairly good at this racetrack. So that's good news for the team that had a bit of heartbreak here last year when they thought they could make it to the finish, and then they had an electrical gremlin rear its ugly head. But remember, this is an uphill to the finish line, so you don't want to be gasping and coughing for fuel, which they might have just put themselves in a situation where that'll be true.
they've got to probably think that there's going to be another intervention from the Hyundai Veloster N safety car. Through traffic and beautifully dealt with by Jan Heerlen. He loses virtually no time at all. Now, penalties coming through. Get to those in a moment as the leading cars are still nose to tail. Or should I say tail to nose, I suppose, from the front of the field. Down towards the hairpin again. Shadows just beginning to lengthen here. Track temperature holding steady. It's around about 35 degrees Celsius. Air temperature at 19 on the Fahrenheit scale, if you prefer to run it that way. 95 on the track and 66 in the air. Shea Adam, a penalty for pit lane infraction.
2 penalties for the exact same car, the 99 automatic racing machine. Wheel rotations while on the jack stand earned it a drive-through penalty. That is the pit lane infraction. And then it also has an incident responsibility with car number 60 that is currently being driven by Chris Wilson. That earns it a stop and hold for 1 minute on the pit lane. So it is a very bad day for automatic racing.
We had debutants sharing that car this weekend in that automatic racing Aston Martin. 2 from Southeast Asia. We talked about Anderson Tenoto earlier on. He's sharing that car with Wiron Tan, who is from Malaysia. One's from Indonesia, one's from Malaysia, and Wiron Tan, who is from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. He has some racing experience in this country before. Back in 2015, he finished 4th in what is now the Indy Pro 2000 Championship with Andretti Autosport, and had several wins that season. Previously, he was a Formula Renault Bark champion in the UK as well, so done a lot of racing around the world. Hasn't done much racing over the last couple of years, but relished the opportunity to drive for that automatic racing team this weekend here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
And Shea Adam, another penalty, and this is quite a serious one.
Which one would that be, John?
The incident responsibility.
I did say that.
Oh, did you? Sorry, my apologies.
Yep. No, but it's all good because I do have an additional bit of information on that number 99 automatic racing. They are having some handling issues, so they might actually retire the car.
Ah, okay. Thank you. That's Alec Udell has plummeted, hasn't he?
He just made a pit stop.
Right, let's see if we can get on to the guys at Windward, as he was charging.
He'd briefly set the fastest lap. I don't think that was a penalty, was it, Shea? Didn't see anything about that.
For the 57.
No.
Yeah.
I've just scrolled back. That was the first thing I did as well. The 2 Tylers have just changed over. Maxon out, Gonzalez in. That's in the number 27 TCR car. So the TCRs now making that's an odd one for them. Were they out of kilter then of that number 27 car? Because that's an odd time to make a stop. Well, I suppose not. 55.
Well, yeah, they had the problem early on in the race, didn't they? They had a pit stop. Was that when they were hit? When they hit? Yes.
Yes.
They were hit, weren't they? So they came in kind of after everybody else. And then I think they were one of the cars that during that caution period were able to get themselves back on the lead lap. But Nitya now will be good to go from here. But I don't think it's going to end well for that team in terms of the final result.
So more battles for second position in TCR a moment or two ago, and finally the number 98. That is the that is a very old replay. That was where Parker Chase got the lead from Donito Pont. Mark Wilkins has since gone through into second place as well. My apologies, took my eyes off the screen for a moment. Now, Bill Oberlin into the pit lane, so they must think they can make it from here, Jeremy. 55 minutes to go, and Turner, who are seldom wrong with tactics, are in the pit lane. Shea Adam, what do you reckon? Splash of fuel and go, or will they get some Michelins?
Well, this is a splash of fuel for the Turner Motorsport number 95. It was a splash of fuel for Robbie Foley in the Turner Motorsport number 96 one lap previous, and a lap before that, it was a splash of fuel for Alec Udell in the 57 Mercedes. We are seeing these people blinking, but in TCR, it could be a very different story. The race leader is on the pit lane now. That is the 98 of Parker Chase. They are doing fuel and front tires. The degradation is so big that the drivers are asking for it already on the radio. They don't think that a splash would be enough to keep them at the front to make it to the end of this one.
Yeah, so that comes back to what we were talking about early on, and it is going to be front tyres share on the number 98 Elantra that's coming from the lead of the TCR category.
The impressive thing, though, John, I'm hearing that there are other TCR cars asking for 4 tires. So we could be seeing one of those rare races where all 4 of the tires on a TCR machine get changed. For Parker Chase, though, just the fronts.
It's quite a long car, that Elantra, and it looks like it's got a long wheelbase, which gives a nice stable platform. Back end, we seldom see the back end of that car sliding around as we do on some of the shorter wheelbase cars, which seem to get pitched in a little bit more. So Jan Helen at the front of the field. Now, earlier on, problems for the Alfa Romeo. I thought I'd seen that car rejoin, but it's been pushed behind the wall. So the day is done for the Alfa Romeo Giulietta.
You didn't even mention the color.
Saying nothing. There's nothing I can add to that. I was about to say that Jan Helen has done a good job, Jeremy, since he was under pressure a little while ago from Oberlin, released from that now. He's putting in some very good laps and very consistent round about mid to late 32s. But Indy Doncic found some pace as well and has pulled that lead down to 1.3 seconds. Shea can keep an eye on the pit stops. This is the second place car, inherited the lead. And that looks like Brian Hurt at Autosport are doing the same tactics for the number 33 Elantra, Shea?
Yeah, correct. Mark Wilkins just getting front tires and enough fuel to make it to the end of this race. Watch when the 77 comes in, though. They are the championship leaders, trying to stay ahead of that 98, and Parker Chase, namely, as he is in the championship by himself. Ryan Norman having missed a race Well, that was Watkins Glen, actually. It was a couple months ago now at this point. But they are trying something different when they come in, and the 77 will most likely take 4 tires.
Very impressed with Jan Helen, Jeremy. He's pacing this rather nicely. And at the moment, it's all going swimmingly for Wright Motorsports.
It is, and the longer they stay out there, they kind of run the risk of there being a full course caution, in which case the pits would be closed within more than 15 minutes since the last full course caution period. So these teams that are making their pit stops now, the first one to blink was, as Shea said, number 57 car of Alec Udell, then the number 95 BMW. Don Salama calling the strategy there for Turner Motorsport. He is one of the best in the business, also a very, very accomplished driver in his own right, by the way, in his previous career. But that car is back out and running again, and already Bill Oberlin is making up ground, and he's up into now the I think it was the 6th position with a couple of extra cars on this lap. Number 56 car came in, the number 3 and the number 43 as well. So Jan Hayden stays out here, but these cars is coming in now. He needs to do that. 2 reasons. Number 1, as I say, risks. If there was a full course caution, he wouldn't be able to come into the pits until the caution. Until everybody packs up behind a safety car, then he would go to the very, very back of the pack, because everybody else will stay out on track, having already made what will be their final stops in this race. The other reason, of course, and you talked about it earlier on, John Hindhoff, is the fact that this track is fairly hard on tyres, fresh set of tyres, you generally can turn your best laps. So he's running risk also of those cars that have made their pit stops turning faster laps than he was able to in the lead of this race on slightly older tyres.
Yeah, 39 seconds was the gap when he committed to the pit lane, and I think he's going to lose the lead. He is going to lose the lead because Bill Auberlen is already on the front straight, and he's going to go by him round about now, in fact. Now, it's a slightly shorter run on the pit lane exit, so Halen will make up a wee bit of ground, but Auberlen is going to come out in the lead by about a couple of cars' lengths, and that was maybe one lap too many then for Wright. They seldom get it wrong, but as Jeremy said, the performance premium with the new the tyres and the fuel.
Did they change tyres though? They didn't change tyres, did they?
I don't think anybody's changed tyres. I just think he was out. He was out in clearer air. That must be the only thing.
Yeah. I think so, and Bill, he's massively experienced, good out laps, good lane laps, as you say, taking advantage of a clear track as well. Wasn't held up by anybody, relatively speaking. He's come out to now in a very advantageous position. There's still several cars that have not yet made their final stops. Andrew Davis now leads the race for McCann Racing in the Audi car number 8. Matt Plum, who is hanging on to back as best he can. He was overtaken about 5 laps ago by Andrew Davis. Matt Plum still runs in second in the Chevrolet. Then the two Mercedes for Capstone Motorsports is Chris Wilson running in third place in car number 60. Then number 65 is Tim Probert for Marilla Racing, and then who's just come into pits right now. And then next up, I think, is Bill Auberlen and Jan Halen. That would be the battle for effectively for fourth place.
So when you're looking for a performance advantage, it could be like Indy Donchi in the number 4 Winward Racing AMG GT as Tim Probert comes into the pit lane, that you splash, and whilst you're putting the fuel in, and it was quite a bit of fuel for all of these guys, you put a couple of tyres or maybe even decide to put 4 tyres on, and then you've got a performance advantage because you've got better mechanical grip underneath your car. The other reason that you might find a performance advantage is if you know and your team is looking at what you're coming up to, and if you've got a whole line of TCR cars, if you've got a big battle of guys that you're about to put a lap down, you might say, well, let's bring Bill Auberlen in right now, we'll take him out of that fight and then get him into a gap on the track, which I can see on the track just over here, and let's get him into that and give him 2 or 3 or 4 clear laps. And that's what's happened, and the leaders are now coming in. Andrew Davis for McCann Racing in the Audi, Matt Plum for Team TGM and the Chevy Camaro. 47 minutes left on the clock. Also Capstone Motorsports AMG GT4 coming into the pit lane. Shea Adam, they're going to lose position here, but they're going to get their, what should be, they'll hopefully have their final service.
Yes, and we're looking at an objective pit time of 47 seconds as the maximum that you want. That's how long Bill Auberlen and Jan Halen were on the pit lane. Should be less for Andrew Davis, Matt Plum, and Chris Wilson, given that they need slightly less fuel, having stayed out an extra lap. But the interesting thing is that the Indy Donchi pit time in taking 4 tires was only 4 seconds longer than the effective battle for the lead. So can he regain that 4-second deficit on top of the time that he was behind, as Halen now looks like he's starting to charge again? It's going to be a 3-way battle for the win.
I was quite surprised at how much fuel went into particularly Bill Auberlen's car, and I was looking in that thinking, do you know what, you could have easily done 2 tyres there. And I reckon, Jeremy, that losing 4 seconds now for Indy Donchi, but putting on a new set of Michelin tyres, I think that's a reasonable. That's effectively only a 4-second tyre stop, which you'd be happy with in Formula 1, never anything else. If that's all he's lost, I think that's a reasonable trade-off, don't you?
Well, it's going to be very, very interesting, certainly, because that 57 car with Alec Udell at the wheel was super fast. It doesn't have the fastest lap of the race right now, but it was the quickest car on the track for a couple of laps for Alec Udell, so he was making up ground. So we know the car is fast, and for Mercedes, the manufacturer championship is pretty interesting. BMW's got a pretty good lead with the 2 wins on the season, also 2 wins for McLaren. Just 1 win so far this season, though, for Mercedes, Chevrolet, and Aston Martin. There's Jan Heylen challenging Bill Oberlin.
The battle for the overall lead, and Oberlin makes it through pretty cleanly there going into turn number 3. 45 minutes to go, and another leader. This time it's the BMW M4 GT4 of Bill Oberlin ahead of Jan Heylen then, as they head up through turn 5. Those two about 6 seconds away from Eric Foss, who's also made his last stop of the race for Murillo Racing. Now the cars we've got to watch are the 2 Winward Racing cars. Udell, I think she only splashed for fuel, but Donchi took tyres, is that right?
That is correct.
So certainly got to keep an eye on Indy Donchi. Now at the moment his lap times are pretty much identical to all the cars ahead of the 2 leaders, but he's only 11 seconds away. It's not what he's doing now, it's what lap times he's doing, I reckon, in 25 or 30 minutes time, when everybody else who's done by then a full stint and change on their Michelin tyres is starting to feel the pressure. Now it is getting cooler, the track temperature is dropping, but it's still sitting at 33 degrees Celsius, which is 91 Fahrenheit. So it's not at an area where it's dropping like a stone, but that is, I suppose that is actually helping them get a little bit of grip. You don't want a cold track when you've already got warm tyres, Jeremy.
No, true. You don't want too much heat, but you want some heat, certainly. And conditions right now are really good for fast lap times. And if you can keep the car on the track, like what Bill Oberlin did then on the exit of turn 4, he was throwing up some stones and dirt and sand into the windscreen of Jan Heylen. But it's an intriguing battle between these 2. But looking back to Eric Foss, the last couple of laps, Eric Foss actually been a little bit quicker than that leading pair. And behind them, Alec Udell has been a little bit quicker than Eric Foss as well. So this, with 42 minutes remaining, this is far from over.
Into the pit lane from what was the lead of the TCR class. That was another one of the, that was a 77 Hyundai, wasn't it? That was Mikey Lewis in
championship leader
in that car, yes. So only 42 minutes left for that car, and that was getting a new set of fronts. Here's the leaders onto the start-finish line again. Shea Adam, I can only imagine that Jan Heylen is not ready to give this up just yet. What are the team saying?
The team is saying that Jan is very fired up on the radio. He desperately wants to get this win, and he is going to be a little bit more patient than perhaps the Jan Heylen we've seen in the past, but he is still going to charge hard at the end. And the team is aware of the other teams on the pit lane that took fresh tires. They're calculating that they need to get the move for the win done sooner than later.
A little bit further back down the field, 14th position, Mason Filippi now leads TCR with that pit stop for Michael Lewis. And he's only made 1 pit stop during this race, Mason Filippi. He's taken over that number 51 car from AJ Muss. Don't think they can get to the end from here without making another stop. In second place in the class now is Robert Noaker in the Atlanta Speedworks Honda. Less than 2 seconds then between the first 2 cars in TCR.
Yeah, that car came in during the full course yellow with about an hour and 10 minutes to go. So take a minute and a half off that, you're still talking about an hour and 8 to go to the end. He's been out 34 minutes so far with 1 lap of yellow before they went back to green, Jeremy. So that looks, I agree, it looks like a tall order. We've seen stranger things happen, haven't we, in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, with people seemingly driving with their fluffy pink slippers on, borrowed from Richard Westbrook. And this is one of those tracks where a bit of lift and coast actually can help an awful lot with your fuel mileage.
Very much so. Yes, you're right. That was where it was here, wasn't it? That Westbrook first did that. He was a ridiculously long stint, about an hour and a half, I think, wasn't he? Yeah. Remember rightly, in that Ford GT, and everybody thought there's no way he can get to the end, and he did. And we've seen a bunch of those performances this season in this class. Of course, that was in the WeatherTech series, but even the Michelin Pilot Challenge, we've seen some super fuel save efforts this season to win races. And these two drivers at the front of the field right now, Bill Aubrey once again strays a rear wheel off the road. This time he exits turn 5 as he heads up the hill here. Giving much grip at turn 6. Yeah, he goes wide again. Yeah.
At turn 5 again, at turn 6 again, excuse me.
Yeah,
that has been...
That is a puncture.
It is a puncture. Right rear puncture, the loaded tyre there. Now, cause or effect, hard to say there. There's a very big drop-off on the right-hand side, and he might have done the inside shoulder when he was coming back onto the track there. But we'll give him the benefit of the doubt for the moment. He's only got one more corner before he's in the pit lane. If he can keep the Turner BMW on the track, I think he will be able to. He's down at turn 10 now, and he'll go to the left-hand side of the track. Massive championship implications right here as Oberlin comes into the pit lane, locks up the car because of the unloaded right rear, excuse me. So now, no choice but to give him tyres, and they'll not want to give him just one tyre here, Shane. They'll want to put at least right sides and probably all 4. Over to you.
But John, if they do have another set of stickers available. I was just going to say, if they had another set on the wall, why wouldn't they have used it the last time? Thankfully, Turner Motorsport, with an extra set of brand new Michelin tires, at the very least, they're doing the right side. I think the right front is going on as well. Yes, it is. And that also is a sticker. So it's new right side tires for Bill Oberlin. Car off the air jack. Come on, guys, let him go. Let him go. Why isn't he moving yet? He's losing time. This is terrible. Already down to 13th in class. They are now deciding they're going to change the left side tires as well. Oh, disaster.
He's gonna almost lose a lap here. Shea, the leading number 16 car, is coming down to turn 10 now. He's got to be rolling. He's going to lose a lap. They wanted to put a matched set on of all new Michelin tyres. Halen coming through to the final corner now. I think Bill's going to get out just ahead. Hard to tell whether the puncture was the cause or the effect. He dropped off at turn 5. It was the drop off at turn 5, Jeremy, and the rejoin that took the tyre, the inside shoulder of the tyre, and the turn 6 was the consequence. And now, we've got a car on the track. It's one of the Hondas that stopped, and that looked like one of the Atlanta Speedworks car. Now, was that Robert Noaker who's pulled over? It was. It was the 94, excuse me, it's Ryan Eversley. Well, they've had a horrid week. I don't think Ryan had more than a couple of laps in the car all week this week, and that's in the middle of the road. Now, it's got started again at turn 2, but a full course caution now would massively benefit Bill Oberlin, who has managed, I think, Jeremy, just to stay ahead of the leader. Yes, he has, and now has 4 new Michelin tyres, which he's just locked up going into the top of the top of the hill at the corkscrew. So there's no doubt that he's pushing. 36 minutes to go. The fight back for Oberlin starts right here. He's 1 minute and 31 seconds behind the leader.
Yeah, and the reason I think they took on 4 tyres there, in order to get back in the mix here, with that huge loss of time, they're going to need a full course caution. If they can get those fresh tyres on then, have 4 fresh tyres to go to the end of the race, we've got 35 minutes remaining right now, that's about their only chance of salvaging a good result from this race, because they're at the back of the pack now, a long way behind the rest of the cars. But if they all close up again with a full course caution, and he's got a fresh set of tyres, and it's Bill Oberlin, then anything is possible. So I'm sure that's why they did that. They would have known exactly how long it takes to change all 4 tyres on that car, exactly how much time they had in hand over the race leader, Jan Helen. As you can see on the racetrack now, it's only 3 or 4 seconds, but that was a great stop there by Turner Motorsport. But they still do need that full course caution. It didn't come out as a result of that car stopping out on the racetrack this time around.
I want to go to Shea for a VP Racing Field Pit and Paddock update in a moment with championship implications, as we mentioned, with that right rear puncture for Bill Oberlin. But I just want to remind you what we were saying about the 2 Winward cars that stopped early, as Robert Noyke, by the way, has got the 84 Atlanta Speedworks car back in the pits. That was the car that stopped at turn 2, the blue and yellow Honda Civic TCR. Jan Helen's still leading by almost 5 seconds from Eric Foss. Alec Liddell, who splashed really early, he was one of the first cars in, now has got the gap to the leader down to under 7 seconds. And Indy Donchi, who stopped and took an extra 4 seconds, as Shea reported to us, to put 4 new Michelin tyres on, only 7.3 seconds away, and he's just gradually easing back towards the leading 3. He's right in behind his teammate Alec Liddell, and both of those cars are just gradually easing back towards Eric Foss and indeed the leader. Shea, Bill Oberlin dropping down the championship, or dropping down the timing and scoring. How does that affect the championship?
Well, coming into this race, the 95 Turner Motorsport BMW was leading by 120 points. They currently sit in 17th. The 96 Turner Motorsport BMW was second in championship. They are in 6th position. Jan Helen, who is in 3rd, leads, and I reckon that if the positions hold or even change slightly, Helen will maintain that points benefit, go to the lead of the championship. He was tied for 3rd with the Mia McLaren. They're down in 10th. Kuno Whitmer was in 5th in the championship. That car is well down the charts in 19th. And then Russell Ward was in 6th position on his own because he's had 2 different co-drivers this year, currently sitting in the 4th position. We could see Halen and Ward jump way up in the points, and the 2 Turner cars drop down.
Really important part of the race here. Bill Oberlin on new tyres has come up against Owen Trinkler, who took tyres but quite a few laps beforehand, and the leader is catching them both. Oberlin trying to go down the inside into the hairpin at the end of the front straight, and he will get through this time, but only just, as Trinkler just about leaves him enough room and drops in behind. That is a battle for 16th and 17th in GS, but more importantly just holds the Turner car ahead of Jan Helen, who can see the back of his championship rival now. Now he's got to get past Trinkler, and they're on similar aged tyres. Actually, Owen's on a little bit older tyres, because didn't he stop at the right at the first of the full course cautions? So Oberlin now has to pull away from the light blue Cayman and try and make some kind of effort. He's got to go through the top 5 in TCR before he even gets on to the main group, Jeremy, of the GS field.
Yeah, no, he's got a long way to go to catch the next GS car to pass. Actually, Tom Dyer, who is back on the lead lap, by the way, for a car bound with the Peregrine Racing. That is the car that has set the fastest lap of the race, at 1:31.3. But Tom Dyer is how far ahead?
20 odd seconds.
Yeah, quite
22, 23 seconds. Yeah. So, yes, an awful long way. I'm going to keep an eye on Oberlin's lap times. His last lap was a 32.9, but he was behind Owen Trinkler for a moment or two. Now, is Owen still ahead of Jan Helen, the leader? See if I can spot them out on the circuit and try and tell you that. There will be blue flags if you're watching in Europe and wondering why people are fighting so hard with the leader behind them. It is the fact that you want to stay on the lead lap here, and we don't have the Formula 1 style 4 blue flags, and you have to pull over or be penalised. it's perfectly legitimate to try and stay on the lead lap because of the fact that a full course yellow can pull you straight back into contention. Coming down the last half an hour, Jeremy, where's the last 90 minutes gone?
Yeah, this has been back to normal for the Michelin Pilot Challenge. Just a tremendous race. Just that one full course caution so far, and it came at a juncture in the race that really wasn't that significant in terms of determining the outcome of the race, I believe. So this has just been tremendous conquest all the way through, and as you say, with just under half an hour remaining, if there is another full course caution, it'll tighten things up considerably a bit. Yeah, I'm still looking at this gap from first to second. It was 5.7 seconds after 49 laps between Jan Heylen and Eric Foss. Last time around, it was 3.4. So
slow lap, two slow laps from
two slow laps, yeah.
Heylen, 34, and now a 33 flat. Actually, 33 flat's about right in traffic.
But that way, one of those laps was getting past Owen Trinkler.
Yes, good point.
Lapping Trinkler is now behind the number 17 car, which is Mikey Taylor, who's taken over the wheel of the number 17 car. It's had all sorts of dramas today, but still running fourth in the class is Mikey, and he's not that far behind the top three. It's Mason Philippe has dropped back to third place in the class over the last few laps. So it's Ryan Chase who leads the way now. We've got a Brian Herta Autosport Hyundai Elantra 1-2, 98 ahead of 33. Mason Philippe running in third place now.
Yeah, and that's the battle that Bill Oberlin is coming up to. Oberlin, as Jeremy says, with slim to no hope of making up the minute and however many seconds it is to the leader. Still about a minute and 30 seconds to the leader. But he's got to keep trying, and he's got to keep pushing forward. He has no fuel issues. He's got the best tyres of anybody in GS, because he was the one that stopped last. So there's 15 cars ahead of him who have tyres in various states of wear and performance levels. And we know what this circuit is like. Now, what I will say, having talked to the teams and the drivers, that these Michelins, very durable. The performance, yes, of course, like any tyre, the performance will drop off, but it won't drop off a cliff. It will be just half a second here, a couple of tenths there. It's not all of a sudden going to be 5 seconds. And as the drivers describe it as the performance dropping off a cliff, that's not what happens to these Michelin race tyres. You feel it, you change the balance of the car if you can, you work the tools with your traction control and your ABS, and you try and keep the balance of the car, depending whether you're front, rear or mid-engined, of course. And if you can, you take a little bit of energy out of some of the long corners and just try and save the performance on your tyres. And that is exactly what Indy Donchi has been doing. He's gone through into third position and passed his teammate Alec Udell and put about a second into him. And he's now only 6 seconds away from Jan Heylen in the lead and 2.2 seconds away from second place. Now again, Donchi has got a tyre advantage on the 2 cars ahead of him. All fuel to the end, we believe, unless someone has been exceptionally cheeky and tried to do a little short fill, hoping for something to happen later in the race. Meantime, in TCR, Parker Chase leads in the Hyundai Elantra N TCR for Brian Herta Autosport. He's got now 2 seconds on Mark Wilkins in the similar number 33 car in second, both in those Hyundai N Works colours, the eggshell blue with the red accents. Or perhaps I should say red Elantras, as they are Hyundais. Mason Philippe for Copeland Motorsport, as Jeremy said, dropped about 8 seconds back now into third in that white and orange Veloster, slightly smaller, funky little hatchback. The rules for TCR said you have to have 4 or 5 doors. Depending on which side you're looking at the Veloster, you might think it's only a 3-door car, because the driver's side has 1 big door on it, and obviously it has a hatchback, so you think, right, 2 doors at the front, 1 at the back, that's only 3. You can't have a TCR car with that. Look at the other side, you see that there's a normal sized front door rather than the long front door, and then a secondary door behind it. So it is actually an asymmetric design on that car. So 2 doors on the passenger side, 1 door on the driver's side, 1 for the hatchback, 4, thank you, we're in for a TCR. So it works like that. So what do you reckon then, Jeremy? I think this has been a very measured drive by Indy Donchi. He's just gradually brought himself back into contention here. He's just dropped a couple of seconds actually, or a second and a half on that last lap as he comes through traffic, but it rather reminds me of a 5,000 or a 10,000 metres running race where somebody is just gradually bridging the gap to a leader without taking too much, in that case, out of themselves. Indy Donchi trying to save as much performance in those Michelin tyres as he can, but you've got to think that towards the end of this race, if he's got pace, he could well be taking 3/4 of a second or a second a lap out of the guys ahead of him, and that might be enough.
Well, it would be if he can. I don't think he's going to get that sort of a margin because Eric Foss is hugely experienced in these cars. I think that Jan Heylen's got things pretty much under control. I think he's just kind of running his own pace in this race. He's cautious, relatively cautious when he's lapping slower cars, but he's able now to extend that lead again just over the last couple laps to Eric Foss. Just a bit, whereas the gap from second to third is remaining pretty constant. It was number 57 car in third position ahead of its teammate number 4. They've switched around, but the gap between second and third is still around about the same, less than 3 seconds.
And Alec Udell holding on nicely at about a half a second to Indy Donchi, but remember Udell did pit. I think, Shea, you told us that he was one of the first pitters to roll the dice for their last pit stop. So Udell's been out there for quite some time, and he did not take fuel. He came in some 4 laps earlier. He's out on his 23rd lap at the moment. 4 laps earlier than the cars around him.
Yeah, that's correct. Alec Udell was the first GS car to come down the pit lane to make the final splash. And then the next car was Robbie Foley, and then the next car was actually Bill Oberlin. But also looking at the championship picture, Russell Ward sits 6th in points coming in. Bryce Ward and Alec Udell are not within the top 15 of the championship. So this is very much trying to get windward into the top 3 of the Drivers' Championship.
The number 57 car actually didn't do the first race of the season at all. So they kind of started one race behind everybody else. So team orders a lot. Both cars run super well pretty much all the way through this season. But it certainly makes sense as far as that Windward Racing team is concerned to have number 4 car ahead of 57.
Another problem for the number 94 Atlanta Speedworks car, reported as a flat tyre but continuing slowly, and Shea Adam has news of a big penalty
for the sister car, which has not re-emerged from its final pit stop. Robert Nowicker and Brian Henderson share the 84 machine. Coming into today's race, they were sitting 9th in the championship. They've had some high highs and some low lows. Today is one of those lows. They left the pit box with the equipment attached, which has earned them a drive-through penalty, but they had not rejoined the racetrack. So I hope that everybody down there in their pit box is okay.
Well, check in with the team for that. I think it's fair to say, Shea, that it's not been a banner week for Atlanta Speedworks. I said that Ryan Eversley, I don't think he got more than a couple or 3 laps with the niggling problems that they had earlier in the week in that number 94 car.
Yeah, you're right about that. He got a little bit of running in practice 1. They didn't turn a single lap in practice 2. And then the car went back out for qualifying this morning, but that was Scott Smithson. So Ryan has had precious few laps around WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca this weekend.
Shea Adam with that VP Racing Fuel Pit and Paddock report. What a brilliant race so far by Jan Heylen and by his stand-in co-driver this weekend, Maxwell Root. Max started the race, qualified the car, pole position, and started the race. Impeccable drives by both of them. Jan Heylen very fired up earlier on, but has paced himself in this portion of the race after the puncture for Bill Oberlin, which rather robbed us of what I think Jeremy and I were looking forward to, which was a bit of a street fight between the two very experienced drivers in the Porsche and the BMW at the front of the field. But Heylen has done a brilliant job and now is starting to turn up the pace again. Excellent stuff from Wright Motorsport and its two drivers this weekend. Jeremy Shaw.
Indeed so, John, and this last lap was a 1 minute 33.6 for Jan Heylen, but the previous 3 laps were all high 32s, 32.8, 32.9, 32.9, and that sort of pace is, I don't think anybody else can run at this stage in the race. So Jan Heylen now is in management mode. In TCR though, these two Brian Herder Elantras running in lockstep. The number 98 car of Parker Chase is just ahead of the sister car, and that's certainly good news, as Jay was talking about a little while ago, for their championship aspirations with the Taylor Hagler and Michael Lewis, the championship leaders, the clear championship leaders, down in the well, even now, with all the attrition in TCR, they moved themselves up to 5th place now and are actually right with Denny Dupont, who is running in the 4th position in car number 19.
Really closed up on the leader there in the final corner, those two Hyundais. So, now a bit of pointing going on as the two Elantras came through. Parker Chase and Mark Wilkins from the starter stand. Not sure what that was about, but really interesting to see just how careful Jan Heylen has been in the braking areas. That would suggest to me that the balance is changing a little bit. That mid-engine car, though, we have seen in the past, Jeremy, the Porsche Cayman, the 718 Club Sport, the GT4 car, is quite good on its tyres. It's a nicely balanced car, not too heavy, and with the engine in its midsection and very low down, it really is pretty much a perfect base car for a race car.
Well, it really is, yes, and on a racetrack like this, which is kind of fast and flowing, it suits, I think, that car really quite well. As to the same way in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, it seems to suit the mid-engine Acura NSX car in GT3 as well. We're watching this battle for TCR. Well, I don't know how much of a battle it is between the two teammates, Parker Chase and Mark Wilkins, but my eye, about 20 seconds back down the road, there's a great battle for 3rd place in TCR. Mikey Taylor holds it right now from Denny Dupont, but Michael Lewis, the championship leader, is right with them as well. So we've got a 3-car battle now between the number 17, 19 and 77 for 3rd position in TCR.
That might well become our Michelin moment of the race in TCR. We're thinking about that for the end of the race. Shea Adam listening in to what's going on at the front of the field. Maybe, just maybe, my guess about the tyre situation for that leading car is becoming an issue for its driver. Shea, what can you tell us?
Jan Heylen is managing his tires. He's doing exactly what he needs to, asking for the gap back to Eric Foss every lap and calculating with time remaining. It's not an issue with the car. It's nothing wrong. They feel confident with what they have. It's just Jan making sure that an issue doesn't arise and that he doesn't have to push.
Still the two Winward cars in 3rd and 4th, 4:57 for Indy Donchi and Alec Udell. And they're only 6.5 seconds away, but we're under 16 minutes to go now. Here comes Eric Foss, slightly held up by the two TCR leaders. In fact, he's only got past one of them at the moment, still needs to deal with Parker Chase, which I'm sure he'll do going down in the final corner. Except I say that, and remember how good the TCRs are on the brakes down there. So it might have to be a squirt of power But I've got to tell you, Voss is not punching out the corner either. And that's, to me, just again showing the grip levels having to be managed by the GS cars. Front straight now, mostly in shadow. Track temp dropping to 29 degrees.
And with Eric Foster struggling to get past those TCRs, John, all of a sudden now Indy Doncia is only maybe a second and a half behind him, and Alec Udell hot on his teammates' heels as well. So that three-car battle, it looks like it might develop into a three-car battle for second place among that trio of Mercedes.
Yeah, my nomination is for the moment of Michelin moment of the race involves Michelin tyres, and it goes to Winward Racing for taking those extra few seconds to give Indy Doncia 4 new tyres. He's now under 6 seconds away from the leader, and it's only come down gently, but I still think that was a reasonable gamble to take for those guys. You might say, oh, well, you know, the 4 seconds that it took, he'd only be 2 seconds away, but would he? It's a big car, that Mercedes-AMG GT4, and he's taken 0.8 of a second out of Eric Foss last time around, albeit traffic influenced. And we always say, traffic giveth, traffic taketh away. But here comes Indy, and he was so much easier for him and Alec Udell actually to punch past the two TCR leaders coming out the final corner. And why they have to, because Trent Hinburn's coming alive at the end of this race, and the Aston Martin Vantage, he's only another second or so further back. So third, fourth and fifth, Jeremy, turning up the wick just a little bit, and we may yet have a battle for the last 2 spots on the podium.
Yeah, very interesting indeed, isn't it? And as you say, that Eric Foss, having got clear of the traffic, did pick up some of his lead again. It was down as low as 1.3 out to 2.1 last time around between second and third. But you're right, Trent Hinman, he's been tracking on there less than a couple of seconds behind those two Winward cars, and now he's even closer going into the final dozen minutes of this race.
Yeah, just under 13 minutes now. Can Indy Doncia just turn up the wick a little bit? Just coming down through the corkscrew. Sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
Well, no, just thinking kind of aloud there, sorry. Another good strategic call here by Turner Motorsports, number 96 car.
Yes.
That was right at the back of the field before the caution period, or well towards the tail of the field before the caution period. Stayed on a lead lap, did Vin Barletta in that first stint, but he came into the pits in 19th place. After the round of pit stops at the restart, the car was running in 13th. The number 96 team was one of the... Did they make that pit stop? Yeah, pretty much around about with everybody else. But he's now up into 6th position for Robbie Foley. So it's been a really, really good performance by that team to get Robbie Foley back up into contention again. And of course, he comes into this round second in the points behind his teammates, Bill Oberlin and Dylan McAvoy.
That's Jeremy Shaw with me, John Hindhaugh, in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Into the last dozen minutes. Shea Adam, our VP, Racing Fuel, Pit and Paddock reporter. And we are watching with rapt attention the last laps of the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca 120 for the Michelin Pilot Sports Car Challenge here in California. This has been an absolute cracker. So many stories of triumph and disaster. Sometimes it seems almost at the same time, as Robbie Foley carves his way past the battling TCR runners at the front of the field, those two Elantra NTCRs. I think what's the pace from various of the cars that have fallen back. I hear you asking where's Bill Oberlin got to. Well, he has closed down the leader by 6 seconds since we last talked about him. But more importantly, he's up to 14th position in the GS category. So that is some points being claimed back there, but that run off the road at turn 5 has been extremely costly and has major championship implications. Pit lane for Matt Plumb in the Chevy Camaro GT4 with 10 minutes to go. Wow, that's interesting. Shea Adam wasn't expecting that one.
I don't like this. Matt Plumb came in, if memory serves, at the same time as Andrew Davis and
Jan Heyland.
Trent Hinman. No,
Yeah.
I think it was Trent on the same lap. But I don't like that a car is coming in for a splash, and that really was a splash. Pit lane delta here is about 24 seconds, which means he was in the box for 13 seconds worth of fuel. Why? Is this going to be one of those races that has us growing gray hair by the end?
That was a 35-minute stint, I think, is all.
Yeah, that's short.
Yeah, so there must have been. Well, he came in a lap after Jan Heyland.
Yeah, he came in with 46 minutes remaining, John.
Yeah, yeah.
There were the 3 leaders at the time. The last cars they were to pit amongst the GS contenders.
I think there was only Andrew Davis. No, he came in at the same time as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
McCann Racing
right.
Car, I remember
46 and 6.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So yes, rather than a fuel issue. Under 9 minutes to go. However, we've said that before as well. We've had an extended period of green flag racing at over an hour's worth of green flag now, and a few splashes of fuel. I did wonder if somebody might have just taken a little bit of a flyer and not fully filled the tanks. These two Elantras are getting a bit frisky together down to turn 4, and Parker Chase and Mark Wilkins trading Brian Herder Autosport wrap there as they were going through turn 4. If they weren't trading it was so close. Don't expect any team orders to come from Brian Herter, except to say don't take your teammate out, is what I would think. But Mark Wilkins clearly wants the win, and they're 15.5 seconds ahead of the Hyundai Veloster, Mikey Lewis in the 77. Who needs the points in the championship, Shea?
Well, it's Parker Chase who's second in the championship ahead of the 77 car right now on the track, which means that he'll be gaining on the championship leader. But the 33, Mark Wilkins and Harry Gottsacker, 0 podiums on the year, which means 0 wins, whereas the car that they are fighting has 3 trips to the podium, including the first victory for the Elantra, and Wilkins is going to push hard for this one.
They're going to have to do some rapid arithmetic at the end of this one. There's going to be some changes. Jan Heyland's lead now down to 2.5 seconds from Eric Voss and 3.8 seconds from Indy Donche. 7 minutes to go. I'm not saying this is all over by any stretch of the imagination yet. A 33.7 last time around for Donchi, 35.7 for Jan Heyland. Traffic playing up its part, but traffic here on worn tyres, Jeremy, if you've got to go on off the racing line, worn tyres, you're going to feel it much more on well-worn tyres, aren't you?
Yeah, you are. There's the number 14 car. Thiago Camilo driving that car alongside Alfredo Nadra this weekend. We've got a bunch of different drivers in that number 14 car for the season, all South American based. And Thiago Camilo, he's one of the most successful drivers in the Brazilian Stock Car Championship over the years. A whole bunch of podium finishes at the end of the championship. So great to see somebody like that making their debut this weekend in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. But now inside 6 minutes to go, Jan Heyland is looking pretty good out front. He's still got a 3-second lead, and I think he's driving well within himself. But this battle continues in TCR. But I really can't see Mark Wilkins going for that position here.
There is a battle for second, Jeremy. Now it's half a second between Donchi and Murillo Racing's Eric Voss, and just 8 tenths further back, Alec Yedel. Shea Adam before we get to that battle for second place and possibly for the overall as well. We don't think Jan Helen is saving fuel here. What are the teams saying?
They're saying he's good to go to the end.
Okay, so this is pacing himself and managing the tyre situation, and here's second and third on the same straight as they go up from 5 to 6. Still the intra-team rivalry of the two Hyundai Elantras heading towards turn 5. Vos and Donchi scrapping for second. That might be the best news that Jan Helen's heard, because he is having, I think, to manage the tyres. It's been brilliant stuff. Whichever way you look at it, under 5 minutes to go. What a race this has been. I'm slightly disappointed that Bill Hopland wasn't in that fight as well. I wonder how much tyres he and Jan Helen would have had around about now. I'm suggesting probably a lot less if they'd still been scrapping for the last 30 minutes, Jeremy.
Yeah, fair point there. But we see these two Hyundais scrapping away there for the lead. Even better news for Brian Herder Autosport with Kermager Janin is that Michael Lewis, with that alternate strategy, has now moved himself ahead of both Danny Dupont and Mikey Taylor up into third position now. So it's a Hyundai 1, 2, 3. Michael Lewis, having come from the better part of a lap down, he was the last of the TCR cars to make his pit stop. Again, great strategy, I think, by that team. And he's now vaulted his way up to third position. He's still about, she's only about 10 seconds behind these two that are scrapping away. But with only less than 4 minutes remaining, we've only got a couple or 3 laps to go in this race. As is Wilkins going to look to the inside? Well, he thought about it, didn't he?
I tell you who else has had a good race, you know, and that is the Mikey Taylor Unitronic car. That car was in the sand, having been hit early on. Did it fall off the lead lap? If it didn't, it was very close. Had to come into the pit lane as well, and that Audi RS3, the yellow and white car, has fought its way back from literally half a lap down back into fourth position. Won't finish on the podium, but that's been a good run from them. They've used the yellows as well.
Yeah, and Michael Lewis, he's 2 seconds a lap quicker than these two Elantras that are battling ahead of them on the racetrack. As give Parker Chase the credit, he's not doing any defending, at least doesn't seem to be. But Mark Wilkins is sort of tempted to make a lunge down the inside, but he wants to make sure. I mean, Mark is a former champion in this class, so he knows all about winning championships. He's not going to do anything silly here to risk the race for both of these two. It's certainly been an intriguing battle between them at the front of the TCR field.
Lot of Hyundai interest in this race because it is, of course, the Hyundai Sports Car Championship event this weekend. A lot of people wearing the light blue with the N branding for their performance arm, and they are going to see a Brian Herter 1, 2, 3. Our Michelin moment of the race in TCR will go to the 77 Hyundai of Brian Herter Autosport, back onto a podium position after being well out of contention. Shea Adam, what's the news from Brian Herter Autosport for the two battling at the front of the field?
The pass for the lead has happened. Mark Wilkins has gotten through on Parker Chase going into turn 4. The word that was passed down from Brian Herta, no team orders, but quote, just both better finish. That order has been righted. Let's see if Parker can get back ahead of the Canadian.
So Wilkins goes to the head of the field. So the 77 wins, the Hyundai Veloster wins, as we've got the white flag out, the Michelin moment of the race in TCR at the front of the field. The scrap still going on for second position overall, and there's 3 cars involved in that scrap now, because Eric Vos, Indy Donchi and Alec Udell, all in AMG GT4s, are absolutely together. Here comes Donchi, flicks to the outside, flicks to the inside, will do the cutback. He's got better tyres, he's going to go through at turn 4. Great strategy from Winward, and that's a second position. Those 4 seconds stationary in the pit lane for 4 new Michelins, have taken him to second position. Foss is fighting back. Here comes into turn 5 the 3 cars, and here comes Alec Udell as well, trying to get on the podium and making it 2 Windward cars on the podium. He's up the inside, up the hill, the drag up to turn 6, he's going through. Oh, they touch, they're side by side, ushered off the track partially, but through goes Udell. And the leader with 8 seconds on the clock, they're coming round. That was a last lap pass, and the moment of the race then for GS, the Michelin moment of the race, was the call by Windward Racing to spend 4 seconds more in the pits for a new set of Michelin tyres that's taken Indy Donchi to just under 5 seconds away from the lead and 2-second position. But nobody has been able to challenge Wright Motorsports. Maxwell Root started it off from pole position. Jan Heylen finishes it with an exemplary drive, saving the performance of that car. That was magnificent from both of those drivers at opposite ends of their career. Heylen brings it home by 4.5 seconds from Indy Donchi in the number 4 car. That pit lane strategy paid off, and they take second. From third, their sister car, Windward Racing, 2 cars on the podium. And in TCR, it's a Brian Herder Autosports sweep for Hyundai. 2 Elantras and a Veloster.
Yeah. And look how close Michael Lewis was at the end there, just 4 seconds behind Parker Chase. A great drive by that number 77 team. Taylor Hagler kept the car in one piece through the first stint, and Michael Lewis drove the whole wheels off it in a second stint and comes home with another podium finish to, well, his lead will be slightly trimmed, but only by relatively few points to his teammate Parker Chase.
Share, Adam, your thoughts on what we've seen this afternoon.
That was mega at the end of this one, everybody coming alive. I love the fact that nobody ran out of fuel on the uphill going to the start-finish line. How many times have we seen that devastation in the past? This was just joy. I really enjoyed it.
So just to reiterate, our 2 Michelin moments of the race. 77 Brian Herder Autosport team fighting back using strategy to get themselves back to third position and hold on to the championship lead, and also a great strategy call for Windward Racing, the number 4 car, Indy Donchi. In his last stop, they called for 4 Michelin tyres, and they paid off in the end, bringing him back to within 5 seconds of the leader and netting a 2-3 for the team. But for that number 4 squad, they get the Michelin moment of the race. And they took that new set of tyres. We reward them by giving them a brand new set of tyres back. There's a certain sense of symmetry to that, I think. Great result for Windward, Jeremy. 2 cars on the podium.
Yeah, brilliant result for them, but a tremendous effort there by that Wright Motorsports team, the first win of the season for that pairing. This brings Jan Heylen a lot closer now in the championship. Bill Oberlin and Dylan McIvern came in here with a 120-point lead over their teammates Robbie Foley and Finn Barletta. They will maintain the lead, but only now by 40 points. And Jan Heylen, who came into this weekend 260 points behind, is now just 40 behind the second place car, and now within 80 of the lead. So it's all to play for in the GS Championship with what just a couple of races remaining at VIR and then Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta.
Maxwell Root, 2 starts in this series, 2 poles, a win and a second. I'd say that's a reasonable tally for that young man at the start of his career. We talked about taking the opportunity. He's done a cracking job for Wright, and there with his teammate in victory circle as Jan Heylen is out of the car. What a brilliant run.
Not only the first win for Max Root, John, but also the first win for Jan Heylen. He's had 3 second-place finishes in this championship before, but remarkably, that's his first win. But beautifully judged there by both of those two. They both drove absolutely perfect races for that motorsports team and came away with a deserved victory. That car suits this track, but they drove it brilliantly.
I heard you do the GS points, Jeremy. Have we got the TCR points as well?
Not specifically, but Taylor Hagler and Michael Lewis will still have a pretty comfortable lead here. They came in with a lead of almost 190 over Parker Chase. That'll be trimmed by, 20 from second to third. So it's still a very handy lead for Taylor Hagler and Michael Lewis over Parker Chase in second position. And they now be quite a long way ahead of everybody else with the problems for the Alpha today. The Alpha came in here tied on points with Parker Chase for second, but will now drop quite some way behind with the problems they had today.
3 up and 3 down normally means end of the innings, but it's been a Hyundai home run here at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca on the weekend of the Hyundai Sports Car Championship event. First, second and third in TCR for Brian Hurd at Autosports. 2 Elantras and a Veloster. Thank you very much indeed. And in GS, 2 Mercedes AMG GT4s and a Porsche Cayman. Wright Motorsports with Jan Heylen and Max Root ahead of the 2 Winward Racing cars in second and third. Jeremy Shaw was alongside me, John Hindhaugh in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Shea Adam, our VP Racing Fuel pit and paddock reporter. It's time for us to fly now, but we'll be back home to roost tomorrow for another fabulous day here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Got all the way through today before I did that. At WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. And don't forget, we've got additional coverage from Indianapolis of the Porsche Carrera Cup North America, presented by Visit Cayman Islands, and that is all in sound and vision, as our coverage will be tomorrow on IMSARadio.com. 2 different video windows and the live video page. Well, that was decent, wasn't it? What's tomorrow going to bring? Mazda MX-5, Porsche Carrera Cup. We've got Lamborghini. Oh, yeah, and the small matter of the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship race. John Doonan is smiling. We're smiling. It's been a great Saturday. See you Sunday for more IMSA Racing on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. Thanks to our tech team. Bye for now.
Yeah, you know me. Yeah.